All right, I'm back just as promised with my video I just did on episode 3. This is episode 4, and I am back. And I'm talking today about what I feel is becoming more and more, or I should say coming to light more and becoming more and more prevalent, in that I think it's possible that this whole coronavirus epidemic could have been prevented, or at least curbed, like significantly curbed, to the point where it wouldn't even have been this sort of worldwide pandemic that it is now. It could have been really localized, like let's say in China where it originated. And I think that when it escaped China and it got out into the world with that Diamond Princess cruise from Japan to Hong Kong, ever since it had did that and started to spread, people left the ship to and fro. But my point is, it could have gotten a lot more contained, I think. And this is the thing that I'm talking about here. I want you guys to listen real closely. The thing I'm talking about here is people that are literally supposed to medically and scientifically investigate these things in terms of zoonotic diseases. I'm talking about the scientific community. I'm talking about the medical community overall, the whole world, not just the United States, not just Canada, everywhere, just everywhere in the world. This knowledge of coronavirus has been out there. Okay, this knowledge has been out there that there is these zoonotic diseases that go from animal to human, and this is not new to any person in the medical scientific arena. No one in those arenas, this is not news to them. Okay, and this is not news as well to governments, to main huge governments around the world. These zoonotic diseases are not new. The SARS that they had, this epidemic that was SARS that we previously had in the world, that was zoonotic. Okay, I think HIV was traced back from a zoonotic setup, like from monkeys. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, ever since all these zoonotic diseases have tried to jump from animals to humans, what I'm trying to say is, I believe that the entire medical scientific community never ever coalesced or galvanized or got together and said, look, something at some point is going to get mushroomed out of control. Hence the coronavirus of 2020. Okay? Nobody in 2010 to 2020, in those 10 years, no one ever got together and said, look, we need to get our medical scientific community together and be in an intelligent world of human beings, scientifically and medically, and stop being separate because we have borders. We need to figure these things out, because nobody's sounding alarms off back then, stating or indicating, look, there's going to be a worldwide virus pandemic at some point. I used to watch Doomsday Preppers a lot. Some of the shows, and I always thought some of the people on there were a bit off in terms of just being overly aggressive about planning for a dire thing that could occur. And I think one of the things, they had like the nuclear war scenario, the asteroid that would hit the world, the stock market or the financial markets around the world crashing. They had a pandemic like we have right now, and all these different scenarios that could occur where the prepper would just even be so extreme about it that they would get their family like so worked up that they would basically be ideologically different than just like a normal everyday American or normal everyday European person would. They were just literally super extreme about their ideological beliefs, which in some capacity, when you look at it now, isn't that illogical. Okay, because the reason I say it's not that illogical is because it's happening right now. We have a worldwide pandemic. Our financial markets around the world they're not crashing, but they're sort of crashing. It's almost like an airplane with one engine right now, the financial markets are. It's like this airplane up there and he's just running on one engine and the passengers are like literally flipping out. And the pilot is like trying his best that he can do with all the training that he's ever had to keep this thing in the air without crashing into the trees or a mountain or something. So this is sort of where we're at right now with the financial markets. And that's kind of creepy because if a global financial crisis occurred and monetary systems started to fail and money was not really money anymore, it would be an absolute disaster. You would have people knocking on your door or banging on your doors or trying to break into your house to take items of value that didn't have a paper value like money did. They would be basically trying to come in and take your stuff from you. It'd be looting, like mass looting. Like the world would suddenly get into a chaotic state probably because money wouldn't be money. Forget about jobs. Forget about having a job. We're talking about like delving deep down into a rabbit hole of hell, of a monetary hell, basically. And I think that the governments are so worried about us getting to that point that they're flooding the markets with cash right now. Trillions of dollars in cash are going into these markets like the bonds and the stock markets and all these different markets to try to prop up these markets so that they don't like crash. So they're like flooding it with liquidity, like cash and trying to keep banks up and businesses up because people don't even go to their businesses and have their businesses running anymore. So they're freaking out. So there's just so much chaos going on. And my point is this, Major League Baseball, NBA, football, all the world soccer leagues and everything else. Think about this. All the sports entertainment is completely shot right now. This is a really, really creepy time of the world because when you have that sort of situation going on, when all your major sports around the world are shot, that is a humongous red flag. That is an absolutely humongous red flag. And the world needs to figure this stuff out faster than not. And now the United States has gotten to the point where we're the number one coronavirus caseload country in the entire on Earth. It means we have the most coronavirus cases of anywhere on Earth. We just surpassed it today. That is really, really bad. That means we're very, very sloppy as a country in spreading this stuff. Nobody's wearing masks. Nobody's wearing like gloves or anything like that. I know that's a bit odd and strange, but think about it. The United States is really blasé and lackadaisical in those even just simple things that you could do. I mean, you look at some of the photographs and video of China, and these people are walking around with masks on. These people are like, we're going to contain this, and we're going to do exactly what the government wants us to do. We are literally walking around grocery stores and stores still, and who knows if these people are still coughing into their hands. Just regular, everyday human beings coughing in their hands and then touching items on the store shelves. And then touching door handles and touching car door handles. And, maybe taking a car ride and touching the dashboard or the radio inside a person's car. These type of things are very, you don't think about this, but this is crazy. This is crazy. Why is the United States... It said the CDC has been really, really dropping the ball. I've been reading on this. Now, there's a couple articles that came out where the CDC has been really dropping the ball. And they dropped the ball, it said, back on the Zika situation. And today that they were mentioning some stuff on the internet that CDC wasn't even involved in some of the White House briefings with respect to the coronavirus. Like they're just... conveniently omitting these things and conveniently just like, oh, well, we're not going to show up for these things. It's like they're like basically like it's almost seems as though they're like giving in, like this is too much for them. And so this is a creepy setup. And so my whole thing is like, I think what we need to do is step back a moment and look at the medical scientific community and see where we went wrong with the coronavirus, because we absolutely positively 1 bazillion% medically, scientifically, how we did not coalesce and galvanize as a medical community around the world, knowing that this pandemic was just probably right around the corner. There was a couple ones knocking on the door, like the SARS and the Ebola and the Zika and the H1N1. These things were knocking literally on our door. Like, if you can hear a knock, like back in the teens, in the 11, 12, 10, 11, 12, whenever all this stuff was knocking on the door, how come we as a medical community around the world did not, and I shouldn't say we because I'm not part of that, but how come we did not get together and try to figure these things out and start maybe in 15 and 16 developing vaccines for zoonotic viruses that are going from animals such as bats, if that indeed is the case. Now, if you go back and look at my previous videos, which you should, I had some conspiracy on how this originated. I want you guys to go back and look at my top 6 conspiracy theories video that I produced yesterday. Okay? And there's other things besides bats that I thought perhaps could be associated with this. And it's not just bats, but right now I'm just saying for conversation purposes that the bats were indeed the problem, because they said the SARS was about 80 to 90% similar to what this COVID-19 is in terms of its genetic makeup, right? So how come we were not investigating this stuff back in 15, 16 after the SARS incident, which was, they said, associated with bats? How come we were not, as a world, medically, because we're intelligent humans and we have capacity to have supercomputers and things like that, to put all these little genetic codes together and put together a vaccine, okay? How come we're not doing this? I'm rambling right now, but I believe I'm rambling logically, and I'm looking at this from a logical perspective, right? And I'm seeing that, look, there has been a lot of balls that were dropped. A lot of balls that were dropped. It's like a quarterback going out and throwing to a bad receiver, and this receiver cannot catch a football if his life depended on it. He's just not a reliable receiver, and that's what our medical community was and has been the last 10 years, just a very unreliable receiver. Dropping balls all over the field. Coach is so sick of it, he benched him. You're on the bench. You can't even catch a ball if your life depended on it. That's a stupid sports analogy, but it is the truth. It is the absolute 100% truth. The United States claims to be the number one nation in the world when it comes to so many different things. We literally make these claims all the time. We're the best nation for the finances. We run the world banks, so the world has to kind of deal with us when it comes to the banking system. We're the best medical country. You're going to get the best medical in this country versus any other country. I mean, we're getting these type of claims that have happened. I mean, I've heard these things over and over again, all these different claims that we're the best this, best that. Yet today, the news comes out that we're the number one acquisition of coronavirus as a country in the entire world on Earth. We acquired the most coronavirus cases than anyone else. Does that even like trip a red flag in your head? Yeah, it does. It trips a red flag in my head. It makes me think that we as a society are very sloppy, and our from the top down all the way to us, just regular normal people, we're not getting the right guidance. We're not getting the right guidance. We're not being told, look, you need to like wear masks. You need to quit coughing in your hand. You need to social distance correctly. They need to get us more tests. We need a hell of a lot more tests. Why did South Korea come out of this smelling like roses, and why did China come out of this with very, very little cases anymore? It's because they tested like crazy. They went nuts with the testing. South Korea was making 100,000 tests per day. They were making so many tests, producing them, that other countries are coming and asking them for the tests. Can you export those tests to us? You think about the United States and how many more resources we actually have as compared to South Korea. We're 350 million people. They're 50 million people. 5 into 35 is 7. They're 1/7 the population of the United States, yet we can't make a humongous factory to just churn out tons and tons of tests. Come on. Are you serious? the ball. Folks, listen to this. You are listening to this right now. This could have been curbed if we would have worked with other medical communities around the world. Our scientists and our medical communities and everything else, and it comes from leadership, never took this seriously. Never took this seriously. So when you want to blame somebody at the end of all of this, no matter how many people die and how much money that this economy goes in tanks, and how many people lose their jobs and commit suicide and possibly go out and kill each other over this, when you go back and look at this situation in 2020, you can think to yourself, leadership around the world dropped the ball when they had every opportunity between 10 and 20 to get this thing and get vaccinations and things like that and get this thing investigated correctly. Because these zoonotic diseases, they could have been under microscopes back in 14, 15. You can't tell me that they couldn't have been, because I know they could have been. Okay? So we as a people should know and realize that leadership around the world and the medical communities literally dropped the ball. They dropped the ball on all of us, and now we are all suffering because we as a human race we're just complacent and lackadaisical when it comes to leadership and the medical community about getting things taken care of. Now, after this is all said and done, going into the 20s, we're going to be way more prepared when this thing cools down, which we don't know when it will, because the United States is just still ramping up. It's really crazy. So we're going to be more prepared, and hopefully they will never, ever let this thing get out of hand like this, and we'll have vaccinations for future viruses that really haven't even came about yet. That's my point. If in 2026 or 2027 or 2028 something festers up again, they should have vaccinations already set aside for something that's just going to sprout up like this again. And I want you guys to comment or whatever on this. This is a long rant, but I honestly believe this is the truth. And I hope you guys also believe that this is true, because this should never have happened the way it's happened. And it's very, very unfortunate. But we as a world and as a society, we will eventually get over this. But who knows when? How many people are going to lose their jobs over this? You know, that's depressing to even think of. Like, you know, just the person who has a normal everyday job, he's just going to lose his job over this. This should never happen. People are going to get wiped out financially because of this. People are going to be, I've heard of people on Facebook and stuff like asking for work because they're out of money. I've heard of like things like that, just crazy stories. I'm sure you guys have too. Some sad stuff. There's like a nurse that was in Italy that went and killed herself because she had coronavirus because she didn't want to spread it to other people. You know, I mean, some of this stuff is just bizarre. But anyway, I'm going to stop the ranting. I hope all of you guys stay safe. Make sure that you keep your hands clean. Make sure you're not coughing in your hands. Make sure that, you know, give your kids a hug. Give your wife or husband a hug. Try to keep everybody as calm as you can. I know this is a really weird time. And so, you know, don't stress and freak out too much. And, you know, hunker down. It's going to probably be till summer. I'm thinking maybe like mid-June where this thing's going to cool itself off. April, May to June, that's 3 months. Set aside 3 months of your life, because this is probably what it's going to be like in the United States. Anyway, I'm gonna check out, and I'm gonna put an episode 4 together at some point soon. An episode 5, because this was episode 4, I believe. I'm gonna get an episode 5 out there as soon as I can. Take care of yourself. God bless, and I'll see you then.